Welcome to this edition of Morgan He Asked For podcast. Tuesday the 9th, we're a day early just the way it worked this week, and also thought just a little bit earlier following the CyHawk game on Saturday. Quick recap of that. Going forward, big picture, Cyclones, Hawkeyes. Then kind of the big topic tonight, obviously, is the NFL, with it being the first week this past weekend. Kind of the early, battles, injuries, teams that look good, don't look good, overreaction after week one. Really, that's what week one's all about, is the overreaction either way for a lot of teams and a lot of players. And then Trev wants to talk just a little bit, ended up on the WNBA as being our WNBA insider. First, let's talk CyHawk game. I'll bring Trevor in first, then I'll have my thoughts. With me being there, obviously, I have a little bit different view of a lot of things on the actual day. That's going to be my focus on what the day meant for Ames, Iowa State, Iowa as a state, and obviously Iowa football. So, Trev, I'm sure you watched it. What were your thoughts on the game, and then just kind of big picture and everything that you saw from an outsider's perspective, but knowing the inside what CyHawk is, but being the outsider outside of the state?
Well, the morning started with my boss texting me who was going to win. He was watching College Game Day and all that, and I said, well, expect it to be low scoring and lots of field goals. So I got that part right.
Yep, there you go. You're right on.
I said, as a Hawkeye fan, I got to pick them. I told him that, Iowa State hadn't won in Ames versus Iowa in a long time. I think since 2011 or 13, whatever year it was. Yep. So, and I sent him a text right after that too. I was like, well, I probably just jinxed the Hawks after sending that text. So I did get the low scoring and the field goals right. The game went about as expected. And I know we're going to get into specifics of the game. There's a couple incidents and plays in the game that I know we're going to talk about. Two I wanted to hit on. Obviously, the final drive for Iowa State, that tipped ball that went in the air, everybody in the stands, everybody watching the home, when you see that ball in the air, you're thinking it's coming down with Iowa. That's what they do, those balls. And he went up and got it. And then shortly after that, he made another great catch on the tight end pop pass. By the way, tight end pop passes are not used enough in football. That's a great play any time of the game. But what I really wanted to go back before that was when Iowa had their long drive, they were doing some slow RPOs with Gronowski, which I liked. If our receivers and tight ends can't get open, give us something different. As Hawkeye fans, we're desperate for anything different. Gronowski can at least move a little compared to Cade, Petrus, and Deacon Hill. I mean, he can move at least. So that's a little bit of excitement. Even though we can't complete the forward pass still. So that was nice. But really what I thought Iowa State, the most underrated play of the game is after that long drive that Iowa had, they kick off to Iowa State. Iowa State makes a little bit of a mistake. They get pinned in their own end zone. And on the very first play, I believe it was a 9-yard gain to one of the wide receivers. Typically, that's another point in the game when you're playing Iowa. You get backed up in your own end zone. You're thinking, oh, great, here we go. Iowa's going to get us in a safety, maybe a turnover, block a punt, or, even if we have to punt, they're probably going to get the ball at midfield. And Iowa State, that first down play, I think it was a 9-yard gain, I thought was the most underrated play of the game to get them out of their own end zone. And they picked up some yardage after that, ran some time. But typically in that situation, that's where Iowa makes their hay with mistakes like that with the other team. And Iowa State came right out, first down, and got that big pass play to get them out of their own end zone.
Yeah, those are big plays, and you hit the nail right on the head that when Iowa State is backed up anytime against Iowa, it is a turnover. Rocco Becht a few years ago had a pick right to Jack Campbell, maybe 3 years ago, walk-in touchdown, or maybe it was Castro even, just a walk-in touchdown from about 6 yards out. We all remember back farther, Brees Hill fumbled it. Maybe that was a Jack Campbell, fumble return for a touchdown, or it's a block punt for a touchdown or a safety. So you are super worried. And then on the tip pass, now one thing that I did see, did you see this? That, in the game, obviously it looked like it got tipped by the receiver, which it did, But did you see that it actually got tipped at the line of scrimmage as well by Graves?
I saw that. I saw that video come out, and again, that goes back to you. Everybody was thinking when that ball's in the air, you're thinking, "Here we go. This is Iowa written all over it." But this time, Iowa State comes down with the ball.
Right, and that ball 9 out of 10 times is picked off by Tyler Sash, who obviously, unfortunately, 10-year anniversary this week of his passing. Obviously, everybody here in Oskaloosa remembers him, and as do Hawkeye fans, some of his best games of his life were against the Cyclones. But that ball's popped up in the middle of the field against Iowa. Sash picks it off, returns it for a touchdown. Cooper Jazine picks it off, returns it for a touchdown, and the Hawkeyes win. This Hawkeye defense is not as good as those defenses. They're still really good, but they're not great. They're not elite as they've been. They don't have a first-round draft pick in the back end like they have. And Iowa State has that. Burkle's made unbelievable plays all 3 games so far for the Cyclones. And last year, he was really big stepping up after Bramer got hurt. He was, and he's an Eastern Iowa guy. He's Cedar Rapids Prairie, so right next to Iowa City. Passed up by the Hawks, and Cyclones took advantage of him, and he's turned into a heck of a tight end. But if you watch that game and that pass getting up, Iowa State did not throw it. They love throwing the ball over the middle. That is what they do. But against Iowa, you cannot throw it across the middle because that ball gets tipped, it is picked. Or if you throw it high or low, it's just picked. They play that just the way they play the quarters defense. And there's just people everywhere where if the ball is just a little bit off, it is picked. And against Iowa State, you can't do that. And that's Rocco Beck after the game said, we played horrible on offense, but we didn't turn it over, which the offense didn't. They did the one time in the special teams game, which that's a whole nother thing. I don't know if that was the right call or not. It did hit Iowa State first. So the way they called it on the field was correct. Now the argument is whether he got blocked into him and it should even have been a penalty or not. But on offense, they didn't turn the ball over, and that is how you can win the game against Iowa. You just can't give them short fields because as you do joke, and I heard this joke. This was pretty good today. Gronowski did double his passing yardage from the first game to the second. So by the Rutgers game, he might be at 200 yards a game. So we're getting somewhere.
Like I said, as an Iowa fan, at least he can move. He can run the ball a little bit, and that is a nice aspect. I mean, I was joking with Doug and some of the guys in one of our group chats. I said, it's tough to implement it in a short time frame, but I wouldn't mind seeing Iowa run the 90s option a little bit with Gronowski and the running backs. I mean, he can move at least. Our receivers and tight ends can't separate.
No,
but at least he can move.
Is your problem. And actually, on the last play of the game where it was 4th down, Gronowski gave everybody a chance. He's scrambling from hash to hash, and he missed the throw, but he actually gave his offense a chance by running around to get that 4th and 16 or 17, whatever it was. He gave him a chance by being able to roll out to his left and get away from the rush and at least throw it downfield. McNamara, Hill, and Petrus couldn't have got out of that. They would have just been sacked right there.
Yeah, and you can't blame the receivers and tight ends. I mean, they're not really used to seeing the football come toward them anyway. I mean, one of the receivers had a drop. I think the fullback had a drop on a short pass play in the first half, if I remember right. So, yeah, I mean, it's tough when you're a receiver, tight end, or any type of pass catcher for Iowa. You're not expecting the ball just in general because the forward pass is, in Iowa's current offense is still something that hasn't been invented yet. This is still the 1940s. So, you got to give them a little bit of grace. Seeing the ball come their way, they're not used to it. But hats off to Iowa State getting the big win. It's a typical Iowa State game, 1-score game. Iowa State comes out on top, 3 of 4 now. Is that right for Iowa State?
Yep, 3 of 4. And it's just, for whatever reason, Iowa State's offense has been really good and improved in the last few years, especially Rocco Beck. But Phil Parker against Iowa State has it figured out. Iowa State cannot score touchdowns. They just cannot score touchdowns. They won in the rain where Hunter Deckers drove them down, won 10-7. Last year, last second field goal, didn't do a whole lot, but just had those 2 big plays, the best drive of the day was the last 30 seconds of the game. And then this one, they had the ball with 8 minutes left, and they were able to take, 6 minutes off the clock and get a 54-yarder. So it's not like they got way down the field last year or this year. Last year, they were just trying to get as close as they can just to have a chance. This year, they only got, a 54-yard attempt, so it wasn't a gimme or anything, but just whatever Parker is doing against Iowa State, it is working. And as if I'm Phil Parker, we've talked about this many times. You just have to be so frustrated because your defense played really, really well. You tell yourself, hey, I'm holding Iowa State 16 points, under 20. I don't think no one's shocked that it was a 3-point game. I mean, I picked a 3-point game. I think you picked a 3-point game a lot, but it was 27-24. It was 24-21, 30-27, not 16-13. No one had it quite that low.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa's defense does its job. And as you said, Rocco Beck said after the game, we didn't turn it over on offense. That's the key.
Yep.
If you don't turn it over, field goals are good enough to beat Iowa in a lot of cases.
Yep.
And then this was another example of that. So, yeah, Phil Parker and the defense had to be frustrated. Nothing's really going to change. I know we talked about that a little bit before we got started. So, for Iowa, looking long-term, when I say long-term, I'm talking about the rest of the season. Still got 10 games left.
Yep.
I think in at least 7 or 8, they should either be up or have a chance in the fourth quarter, given that their defense is still good, special teams, they can run the ball well. The Iowa offensive line's much improved, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So they're going to have a chance. We'll see what happens versus Oregon and Penn State. Penn State hasn't looked quite as explosive on offense early yet this season, but Iowa still got a chance to do some good things. I don't know what to expect. I mean, even if the offense does good against their next couple opponents, I'm not going to get overly excited until we really get into the heart of the Big Ten schedule. So just win the games. It sucks to lose, but they've still got a chance to do some good things. But I'm a little bit – we've talked about this for a few years now. I was just kind of stuck in the mud.
Yeah. It's frustrating winning or lose. Like Iowa State, as an Iowa State fan, this game frustrates you because you knew you got sucked into playing Iowa football. Now, this year and last year, we were good enough to win, and we made the play at the end. But for the previous 15 years, you played Iowa football, you got beat. And that was kind of the criticism of Matt Campbell, is he tried to play Iowa football against Iowa, and you weren't good enough to do that. Well, now you're starting to see, winning 3 out of 4, maybe you are good enough to do that. And that's the frustrating part if you're an Iowa fan, and that's a bigger conversation. I know you kind of hinted, we had a conversation before we hit record on the big picture of Iowa football, and we may have to do a special podcast for that. But Iowa State at this very moment in 2025 looks to be a healthier program, maybe even a little bit more physical program, mentally tough program. And the biggest thing is they have the better quarterback right now. And in football, when you have the best quarterback, that's a heck of a help, and that's a great start to your football team. And as you said, he didn't turn it over, so that gave Iowa State the chance. And then they've proven that Camardi is he's a game-winning field goal guy against Iowa. We'll see how if it translates to the rest of the year. He's hit some good kicks. He's missed some kicks. But the last 2 years, he's hit 54-yarders to win the game against Iowa. I do want to talk about more the day and the spectacle of the CyHawk game in the national sense and in the big picture. Big Fox kickoff was there. Barstool was there. Portnoy was all around Des Moines, Ames. Everything I heard, everything I saw, we didn't go over to it. Just we watched it on YouTube and we watched the noon kickoff show. They loved it. The celebrities loved it. Urban Meyer loves Matt Campbell. I think if Ryan Day would move on, I think if Ryan Day doesn't win a national championship last year, there's some talk on whether he is the right guy for Ohio State. If Ohio State needs a coach in the next 5 years, Matt Campbell, I believe, is at the top of their list. Notre Dame, I actually saw today where Florida looks to be like they're going to be in looking for a new coach. and a pie in the sky guy for them would be Marcus Freeman. Well, Notre Dame's that same type of program. Midwest, hard-nosed, closer to home. How hard does Notre Dame go after Matt Campbell? Those are the programs that worry me. Florida doesn't worry me. If Florida calls Matt Campbell, I don't think he'll go. But if Notre Dame or Ohio State open up, worried. But Urban Meyer seems to love him. Just nothing but good things nationally. And you see it on Twitter. You see it on TikTok, Instagram. Just CyHawk game is getting a bigger profile. 3 out of the last 4 times in Ames, one of the big shows has been there. And, you see Portnoy wearing Iowa State stuff all day. A lot of Barstool people watch him, and that can't hurt your program.
Yeah, he did pizza reviews. I saw he did the Super Dog review.
Yeah, that was good. I liked
it. There was a lot of late nights with college buddies that we got the Super Dog their names. So that was kind of funny to see him get one of those. Yeah, things are trending up for Iowa State right now for sure. Iowa's just stagnant, stuck in the mud, like I like to call it. So things are really good. All the celebrities were there. The pregame shows were awesome. What was I trying to think of? Oh, you probably saw the viewership numbers. Keith Berthy just posted earlier today.
4.2.
Yep.
Good. I mean, they're not going to get the 8 to 10 million like some games are going to get. But this is a consistent 4 million. I think around 4 million people watched the Kansas State game. I don't know what watched the South Dakota game, but 4 million again for this game. So they're doing what they can. They're proving it. They're 3-0. There's some people that really thought they might have been 1-2 at this situation. 2 big rivals. You never know how the Ireland trip's going to go just because you're traveling. Then when you come back, you don't know how it's going to go. It's went almost perfect so far since coming back. This is a big test going down to Arkansas State, not because Arkansas State is a great football team. You should go down there. You're a 20-point favorite. You should go down there and win. But it's just weird going down to Jonesboro. It's going to be 100 degrees. Now, it's going to be 100 degrees here. So if the game was in Ames, it's not going to be any different. It's going to be 100 degrees here, too. It's going to be hot everywhere in the country. But that's just another factor. And is the travel, is their 4th game. Everybody else is playing their 3rd game. Just things that are coming up. And then after this week, you get a bye. So you get to then you catch up. Then you get that bye week where everybody else is playing a week. And then you're back more to even ground and you can catch your breath. You've been going hard since late July. It's kind of a tough spot. And just like the South Dakota game was kind of a tough spot, I thought. And they came out and played on fire. The other thing is, so Iowa State is 3-0 against Iowa, Kansas State, South Dakota. South Dakota's 0-2. Iowa's 1-1. Kansas State needed almost a miracle to beat North Dakota and then got beat by Army. Iowa State's schedule beginning, hey, rivalry game, ranked favorite to win the Big 12. South Dakota ranked like number 3 in the country, finalist, semifinalist from last year, return a lot of people. And then obviously Iowa, top half of the Big 10, big in-state rival. Well, Iowa doesn't look very good. Now, I think they're better than I think a lot of people are giving them credit for. I still think they're going to finish 6th, 7th, 8th in the Big 10, but they do need to get better on offense. South Dakota doesn't look as good, and Kansas State's in shambles right now. Now, that doesn't mean they can't turn it around, but they are in shambles right now. I don't know if hopefully they can turn it around and still be a factor in the Big 12 and beat some teams to help Iowa State and help their strength of schedule. But are you beating teams that aren't very good? Maybe. We don't know that. And so maybe Iowa State isn't as good as we think either. That's the one worry.
Ever since that Kansas State game, Iowa State and Kansas State have gone in different directions as far as the season's gone. Now, Iowa State's taking care of business. You mentioned going down to Arkansas State. You hope there isn't a lull after beating Iowa. You want to come out fast, take care of them, put them away. Going back to your previous point a few minutes ago about Matt Campbell, I don't think you got to worry about Ohio State. I don't think you got to worry about Notre Dame either, because in my opinion, Marcus Freeman's not leaving Notre Dame for Florida. I believe there's a lot more money at Notre Dame, bigger graduating classes than SEC programs. I don't think Florida has the money that Notre Dame does. So I think you're covered with those two schools at least. We talked about last week. I think John Gruden's a guy to pay attention to for Florida and Arkansas, but I think Campbell's safe for right now, and it's a long season. We'll see what job openings come up this year and next. Obviously, his name's going to be at the top of the list. But yeah, for Iowa State, yeah, their opponents right now don't look as good. I still think Iowa's going to get to 8 wins, so that'll look like a better win at the end of the season, wherever Iowa finishes in the Big Ten technically. But I still think they can get to 8 wins, maybe 9. We'll see how the conference games go, assuming they take care of business Saturday. But yeah, ever since Iowa State and Kansas State played, both of those programs have gone in opposite directions, and Iowa State's gone the way that you want them to go. It's not their fault that the other teams are losing. They're taking care of business on the field like they need to.
Yeah. Yep. It's exciting times. Iowa State plays at 3:00 at Arkansas against Arkansas State down in Jonesboro, Arkansas. I believe they are staying in Memphis, which obviously they're familiar with, playing in, I think, 3 Liberty Bowls in the last 12 years, 15 years. So I'm going to assume they're going to stay probably in that same Peabody Hotel maybe that they have, and then drive up. I think it's about an hour, which is that isn't super unusual. Everybody think that's kind of weird, but I know when Iowa State played Nebraska, we always stayed in Omaha. When we played Kansas, we always stayed in a Kansas City suburb. And Lawrence isn't too far from Kansas City, but it isn't a suburb. It's out. It's kind of like Ames. It may be a little farther, but it's not a suburb of Des Moines, but it's not very far. And we usually stayed in Overland Park. Then we went to Texas. You didn't stay in all the, sometimes you did, but then sometimes you didn't. Just depends on how the land's, obviously we went to Missouri. There's nothing there but Columbia, so you stayed in Columbia. But just kind of depend where you went, where you stayed. But, and then, the last thing I want to talk about with the CyHawk game is I've been to Iowa State games since I was little. And I didn't go to, when I was growing up, I didn't go to every game. We went to one game a year, and I think I've said this, I never saw Iowa State win a football game until I was in college. Because we always tried to go to it. Iowa State was horrible. We went and watched them play Colorado. Well, Colorado was winning national championships. We went and we saw them play Iowa. Well, Iowa State didn't beat Iowa until I was in college. We saw them play Nebraska several times. Obviously, they did beat Nebraska here and there, but I just never, I didn't, the games I went to, I didn't see them. So we always tried to go see good teams. And those times, there'd be way more fans of the other team there. And even the last 10, 15 years, it went from 50-50 to 60-40 to 70-30. On Saturday, there was not very many Iowa fans there, I didn't think. There is your little section that I think, is given to Iowa. I mean, and it has and then about a section and a half over from us is always another piece of the other fan base. And that was about it. Now, there were Iowa fans speckled in. Don't kid yourself. But I would say it was 85, 90, maybe even 95% Cyclone fans. So there was no sellout to just sell your ticket to the highest bidder. It was Cardinal. And Iowa State asked Iowa State fans to wear Cardinal, and they did. And I thought it was a really, really, really good showing for Iowa State. And RVTV goes around, the central Iowa-ish into the Des Moines TV market. Usually small towns around that don't get a lot of press or anything. And Keith Murphy, Andy Fales, they've said it. They started it about 25, 30 years ago. And there are still, like I say, there are still more Iowa fans than Iowa State, but it is not near what it used to be. And especially when you get really into central Iowa, where you get near Ames, Ankeny, Ames, Boone, Story City, Nevada, that kind of corridor right there. It is 50-50 Iowa State anymore. I mean, Ankeny is an Iowa State town. There's a lot of the coaches even live in Ankeny and just drive up there. It's not very far. Ankeny's keep moving farther north as it is. I know Coach Otzelberger lives there. I think a couple football coaches live there. John Walters lives there. Yeah, so I mean, it's an easy drive up to Ames, and just more and more Cyclone fans in Iowa State, and that is in Iowa. It's just a direct correlation to what Jamie Pollard has done, and that is a Jamie Pollard thing. He got there. He put up that billboard in Eastern Iowa. He's done that, Cyclone tour bus where all the little kids go see Cy, and all the coaches go around instead of the stuffy country club old golf outing that we used to do when I was young. It is much more geared towards fans, and then those kids go to Iowa State and they become a fan, and it's just one by one by one. Iowa State is making huge inroads in the state of Iowa on trying to make it closer to 50-50.
Yeah, being a fan of any of the home teams, you want to see it 90-95% your fans, no matter what school you're rooting for. And I do have to give Iowa State credit. They are maturing a little bit as a program. They are wearing their own colors, with the uniforms and in the stands. So
I really like those uniforms. The Cyclone script is really good. And the other thing I really liked, and talk about maturing as a fan base, right in the student section corner was the big Fox Noon set. And they were ready for a field storm. They had the security there. The gates were going up around everything. We didn't do it. Now, and I agree with not doing it. We were the favored team. We were the ranked team. We were supposed to win that game. Now, everybody would have liked a little bit easier time, but that's life, and that's football, and that's a rivalry, and that's just how it is against Iowa. It's always close. But I was really impressed that no one tried to jump the fence. No one tried to rush the field. It's becoming an expectation to win football games. It's not a surprise anymore.
No, I don't like that at all. When you beat Iowa State at either stadium, the fan base, the college kids need to be storming the field. I don't care if they're the favorite or the underdog. Storming the field's awesome at any game. So I'm on the opposite end of you there. Storm the field, have fun. You're in college, go run around. That's one of the best things about rivalry games, whether you're the favorite or the underdog. So I like storming the field, but I get your point. Did you take Zach and the guys to the world's largest rooftop bar at Applebee's there in Ames, or have they got that built yet?
It's starting. There are a few buildings. I think it's the McFarland Clinic. But no, I did not.
Some of the guys come up?
Yeah. Tass and his family and Zach and his family came up. It's a great time, and it's kind of a small world. Some other people with affiliations here, there, and you see people that the camper right next to us, a guy that was it's from the Pekin area, superintendent around, and he was a principal of mine before. He's standing there, and I look at him, and I'm like, "What are you doing here?" Oh, his son's girlfriend, that was his family or friends camp right next to mine. It's a small world. People walking by, buddy of mine from college came by. Yeah, it's just a good time. And that's what's great about, having the same spot each year, having the camper. Just, I just tell people I'm in the same spot every time. Stop on by, and people stop by, get a beer, grab a burger, whatever, the chips, doesn't matter. And it's just great having people around. I will say this. The downside of that is I do know other people that have the same thing that I would like to go see them sometimes, but you don't because you're hosting your own, and that's okay. There'll come a time where no one else is coming, and I'll be like, hey, I'm going to go over to the RV Village and see a couple people and other people around. But Saturday wasn't it. And Saturday is just a bad time anyway because there's just so many people around. I would like to know how many people, the stadium's 65,000. It was full to the gills. Maybe they got 70 in. I don't know what it really was, but was there 100,000 people around the stadium? Was it 110? A lot of people around, like TJ and his family, they didn't have tickets. Zach and his family didn't have tickets. I had TVs going at the camper, and they just hung out there and just watched the game outside. And there are lots of people that do that.
Yeah, that's the fun about tailgating. Even if you don't have tickets to the game, you can hang out with the campers when you know people. And yeah, you're right. It's tough to get around and see everybody that you want to because there's there's always tons of people that you know from high school, college, or just current friends, and everybody's got different lots, different spots, and there's only so much time, especially with an 11 a.m. kickoff there in Iowa. Time is pretty limited in the morning, and then once you get out of the stadium, you're excited, but you're kind of unwinding, and you want to go back to the tailgate, get some food, and but that's good that Zach and TJ and those guys got up there, and you got to see them.
Yep. It's what it's all about, and they're Hawkeye fans, and give each other a little crap, but that's what it's all about, and love it, and that's why we do it.
Yeah, it looked like a blast, and on TV was great. Like I said, I watched the first hour of game day, and then switch over to Big Dune kickoff and watch some of that. So it's been a good run for Iowa State through their first 3 games. Now just take care of business versus an opponent that you have to beat. You can't lay an egg here. You got to get to 4-0 and then start getting into that Big 12 play.
Yeah, I mean, you need to win this one. Then you have a bye week so you can regroup, which is you need it. And then first conference game in the regular season. It'll be Iowa State's second conference game is at home against Arizona, which is another one of those. I do think they're better this year than they were last year, second year under their new head coach. But that's a game you need to win. So there you can get to 5-0, and then you just see where you land, and you just try to go one game at a time. But just projecting ahead, if you just do the right things and do what you're supposed to, you should be 5-0 going into October.
Yeah, if Iowa State gets to 5-0, you would think they'd be flirting with about that 10th or higher spot. Yep. Now, unless you're that lady, did you see the video today of the lady that's an AP voter it just came out a few hours ago. Did you see that starting to go viral?
I haven't.
She went on, I don't know what she went on with, but Bussin' with the Boys and some other platforms on Instagram are reposting her. And she's an AP voter, and she basically said, yeah, it really doesn't matter. She had Florida ranked ahead of South Florida, even though they just played, and South Florida just beat them. She was laughing, saying, yeah, there's so many voters that it really doesn't matter, just kind of evens out, and we just kind of vote. We don't really take it that seriously. So she's going viral for all the wrong reasons. So we'll have to see if Iowa State gets to 5-0, if she's still around making votes or not, because there's some tough criticisms of the AP voters, preseason voting and all that. This is a little bit getting off topic that we didn't have it, but everybody wants to get rid of preseason rankings. Yep. I don't think it matters because people go into a season with predetermined thoughts anyway. So even if you don't rank teams till week 4 or week 5, if Ohio State and Oregon and Texas, all those teams are undefeated, they're going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 anyway, no matter who they play, because that's how the voters think.
Right.
And teams like Iowa State, Utah, South Florida, they're going to be 12, 14, 18, even if they have the same record or a better resume. So I don't necessarily know if it would change anything, even if they got rid of the preseason rankings. I still think people's predetermined thoughts going into a season wouldn't change much, in my opinion.
The only thing would be a team like Florida State last year that started out in the top 10 and just didn't win a game. I mean, or one game barely, where they wouldn't start in the top 10. You know, they would never have been in the and a team like last year, like Arizona State, if you don't start, let's just say you start after week 4, so everybody's got 4 games in roughly. Arizona State was picked dead last, but they're 4-0, so maybe they're the others receiving votes and they're like 32nd instead of 50th, at 4-0. That would be the only thing that could help, because that's what hurt the Big 12 last year with Arizona State, was they started so far back that they just could not get probably as high as they should have been.
Yeah, for teams like that, it probably would make a difference. I guess I'm thinking of the big schools, though, Ohio State, Notre Dame.
Yeah. The top 5 is going to be the top 5.
Yeah, that's not going to make any difference. Even if they play nobodies, they're still going to be at the top. But you're right. Some of those other schools that maybe they win in the season ranked 50th, when really they should be 24th or something like that. It probably would make a difference. But I'll send you the video when we get off. You'll probably see it anyway. But she's under a lot of criticism of why certain AP voters shouldn't have a vote to begin with.
All right. And kind of speaking, I know you kind of talked about it, but let's kind of transition there to the South Florida game. And we kind of touched on, Florida's probably going to be needing a new coach. It looks like it's going downhill for Billy Napier. South Florida with two of the best wins in college football at home against Boise, and then go into the Swamp and beat the Gators. Alex Golich, who was a former or an original staffer at Iowa State, left and went with Josh Heupel at Tennessee, was the coordinator there, and then now he's at South Florida head coach. He would be in the running, say Matt Campbell leaves to go somewhere. I think he would be in the running, or it's a phone call probably Jamie Pollard should make if he's interested in coming back to Ames. I think there's a couple others on staff that should be in the running as well, but I think that's a phone call that needs to be made. He's proven he's getting better, and he's positioning himself to be have his choice of jobs coming up this fall with another huge opportunity this Saturday. That's the thing. These schools get opportunities. Can they take advantage of them? He's 2-0 in the big games with a third opportunity here at Miami, ranked number 5, 4, whatever they are. Depends what poll you look at. But really good. Go down to Hard Rock. If they win this one, they're not only going to be the group of 5 favorite, they're just going to be top 12, top 10, and they're going to be the Boise of last year, and they might not even be they might get one of the buys.
They've got as good a resume as anybody does in the country right now. And I tried to look up the stat. I was listening to the radio the other day, and I couldn't remember. But I think if they do beat Miami, they join a group of like 4 other schools throughout college football history that have 3 ranked wins in their first 3 games of teams that are in 3 different conferences: Boise State, Florida, and then it would be Miami. So, and one of them I think was like 1946 Hawkeyes or something I heard. I'd have to go back and fact check and look it all up. But regardless, they have a good opportunity. They're 17.5-point dogs at Miami. It's going to be a tough game. Miami's trenches look really good. But if they can keep it within 10, or if it's a game in the fourth quarter, South Florida looks like they're going to be that team in the playoffs.
Yep.
But
they just need to not get beat 49-3. As long as that doesn't happen, they're going to be fine. You just got to win all your other games, and then they most likely, with that win in the Swamp, it'll be between them and who has Duke this week? Is it Tulane?
Tulane's off to a good start, aren't they? I think.
Yes, there's.
I know UNLV's won their games. Boise State's dropped one. If we're talking about the
group of 5, yeah. Duke goes somewhere. It might be Tulane and Duke, and that's another big opportunity for that conference. And they're kind of battling it out, and they don't play each other. South Florida and Tulane. It must be Tulane that I'm talking about. They don't play each other, just the way it works out. So.
Yeah, Tulane's got to win over Northwestern, and if you're right, if it is Duke or whoever, those aren't quite the ones that Boise State and Florida would be, of course. But South Florida is off to as good a start as anybody. And of the smaller schools, they're the biggest surprise, and of the big schools, Florida State seems to be the big surprise so far this year. So I know Florida lost, the Gators lost, but there's some good things going on overall in the state of Florida, though.
Yeah, and that's a big change because the last 5 years or so, it's been pretty bad. And you go back to the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, you're talking from 1985 to 2008, whenever Tebow won their championships, whatever that was, for that 30-year stretch. What is there, 6, 7, 8 national championships between them all? Florida has 3. Florida State has 2 or 3. Miami has 2 or 3, 4 maybe, because they even won it in 2001, 2001, whatever it was. Yeah, I mean, it's just – and they have – every college in the country goes to Florida to get athletes. They go to Texas, they go to Florida, and they go to California. Some of the East schools really don't go to California, but you look at Iowa State, they go south to get their players, and a lot of Rocco Beck's from Tampa, Tampa area. That's just where you go to get a lot of players.
Yeah, Florida, Texas, California, and then you got the underrated states of Ohio and Louisiana and Pennsylvania that people kind of forget about. But yeah, things are good in Florida right now. I'll be rooting for. I kind of like seeing Miami do good, but I'll be rooting for your college football pick 'em that we're doing. I kind of been debating taking South Florida, but I don't think they can do 3 in a row.
I haven't made my picks yet. I actually this morning, I think it was this morning, I went through and picked the games that we were going to pick. So I have to do that every week first. Then probably tomorrow I'll go through and pick the Survivor game and a little scare in the old Survivor game. I picked Denver. It wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, Survivor. I got 5 entries, so I did 2 Eagles, 2 Broncos, and 1 Washington. And yeah, the Broncos game, that was a nail biter. Bo Nix tried to give that away multiple times. He had 2 interceptions. He could have had another 2 or 3, honestly. Thank God that Denver's got probably the best defense in the league, and they were playing a rookie quarterback, because that had upset written all over it going into the fourth quarter, and the Broncos came out on top. If the Tennessee Titan receivers could catch a ball, that might be a different ball game there. Yeah. So, yeah, I think Taylor's pool, we had 130 in it. There's 6 out, so there's 124 of us left.
Did you see a couple of those picks? I'm like, what are they doing?
Well, the Giants one, it's one of 2 things. The guy that picked the Giants, he's either thinking it was a loser's pool, or he's just gambling and going, well, a third of the people are going to pick Washington, so I'll go the opposite way. And he's just gambling, his money.
Yeah, or he's got like 7 entries, and that's the one he's going kind of. They picked a couple. Some of them picked New England. One of them picked Miami. That was probably the worst one. Miami's bad.
I'd probably go with the Giants being the worst, but Miami's pretty bad too. Miami, I was expecting them to have a top 10 pick going into next year's draft, and it doesn't look like that's changing. The team has given up. There was all the offseason rumors of players showing up late to meetings, Tyreek Hill situation. Their trenches on both sides of the ball are bad. Tua's got an injury history. I wasn't expecting to beat down like that. The Colts, I wasn't surprised that they lost, but Miami looks to be one of the worst teams, one of the 5 or 6 worst teams so far in the NFL.
Yeah, so let's just go ahead and transition to the NFL. Kind of your top takeaways from the weekend, key injuries, just key things. And I'll give you just a second here. I need to plug in my computer real quick. So just ramble for a minute here on the NFL, which I know you can do.
Yeah, we can start with some good and some bad with some teams there in the NFL. And we'll start probably with the first game on Thursday night with the Eagles and Cowboys. Eagles look a little bit sloppy. They lost a bunch of players on defense. Of course, that game started out with Spitgate, I guess you can call it. He got suspended for the game. I think he got another fine of like $50,000. There were some people wondering if he was going to get suspended an additional game. Sounds like the NFL is not going to do that. I would have been okay either way, but Dallas came out and proved themselves a little bit more than most people thought. I kind of like the plus 8.5 with Dallas in that game. So these are NFL teams. This is an Alabama versus Citadel. The Cowboys still have a lot of good players, and they've got a lot of pride. We go into the Friday night game, which was a weird broadcast. I think they're adhering to a certain crowd, but the YouTube was weird. It was not very enjoyable to watch. The Chargers offense looks pretty good under Harbaugh under year 2. Quentin Johnson, I think he's in year 3 now. He looked like a bust to begin his career. Last year, he had a pretty decent season. I don't know if a lot of people realize it. And then he had 2 touchdowns in this game. So the Chargers look explosive. I know we did our playoff predictions last week. I told you I left the Rams out because of the Stafford injury. I told you that was going to be my biggest miss if he stays healthy. I still stand by that. I think your biggest miss is you didn't have the Chargers in the playoffs.
Right.
And that's probably going to be your biggest miss year 2 under Harbaugh everywhere he's been. Both of our biggest misses, though, could be the Lions. And take the coordinators out of it, their interior offensive line looks not good right now, just to put it lightly. And I'd say on the worry scale, I'm a 7 out of 10 with the Lions right now, not even them being a contender, just making the playoffs. So the Lions, of all the quality teams that people expected to be good this year, the Lions look the worst by far. The Chiefs' offense looks stagnant. They got to get a running game. Forget the receivers and tight end. Pacheco and Hunt they're capable at times, but there's no explosion with those guys. Mahomes could really use a running game. Some other teams, the 49ers, obviously dealing with a lot of injuries. That's no surprise. We know that some of their key players are injury prone. What's really going to hold the 49ers back this year, I think, from reaching their potential, whatever that might be, is going to be their special teams. They released their kicker earlier today.
Yep.
They've had kicking problems. So the injuries we already knew going into the season. That's just the 49ers. What's their injuries like every season? That's just something to pay attention to. But their kicking game is something that really might hold them back, because we know how many games come down to a field goal in the NFL. And then, of course, you probably saw the news today that Brock Purdy's dealing with some injuries. He could potentially miss a game.
Yep. Yeah, you didn't really see it, but you could. Yeah, as soon as the game was over, they said that, he's very questionable going forward. And if several of the other guys are hurt, it might be a game just to sit everybody and then move forward throughout the thing. And Brock Purdy made it. It was the play, but that was a Brock Purdy pass. He just threw it up for grabs, and it was just his guy that came down with it.
He had to make a play, and he made it. I mean, he had a couple bad picks, but at the end of the day, they won the game. Seahawks had a chance there at the end. Darnold made a mistake, which he's prone to do. Bosa got some pressure in there. So it's a good win for the 49ers. And if Kittle's going to be out for probably 4 weeks, it sounds like. Yep. So that was a massive win. It's a divisional win, and their schedule is manageable, I think, coming up. I'd have to go back and look at it. But that was a big win for them to get. The Colts looked really good. It's 1 week. I don't want to get too excited on Danny Dimes.
Yep.
They're in Indianapolis.
Danny Dimes.
But you wonder, they honored Jim Irsay. The Colts are kind of a family-run organization. A lot of players that play for the Colts love it. You wonder, did they just get up for that game type of deal? And I think the Colts we kind of overlook because of their quarterback situation. They have a lot of good players on offense. Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, Alec Pearson, then, of course, Tyler Warren, who they got in the draft. They actually, the Chiefs would love to have some of those players on their team right now. So we'll see what happens with the Colts. I think the teams that look the best, and we're going to get into the Sunday night football game here after this, but take those two teams out. And I think the two teams that looked the best this past weekend were the Packers and the Chargers. To me, I was most impressed with. And then, of course, we've got the Sunday night thriller, which was an all-time game. Did you end up watching that?
So I was watching it, and that was getting boring because the Bills couldn't stop the Ravens. And so I turned on a Cyclone show on Sunday nights that come up. I wanted to see what they were talking about. And then Connor comes up and he goes, "Hey, are you watching the Sunday?" No, it's 40-25. And I decided to switch over to this. It was just kind of, he goes, yeah, the Bills just scored and they're going for 2 to tie it. I'm like, what? And so right when they missed the 2-point conversion, I watched the rest of it. But like the Derrick Henry fumbles, things like that, I didn't see. Yeah.
An all-time game. I was watching the entire time just because when Lamar and Allen are on the field, you never know what's going to happen. They're so good. And part of it, the reason I was watching too, is I was playing Ty West in fantasy, and I needed like 44 points going into the game out of Josh Allen. And I thought, well, if there's anybody that can do it, he could. And we get to the fourth quarter, and I'm like, well, there's a chance. It's still a long shot. ESPN was giving me 1%. They had Ty at 99% chance to win. The fumble happens, they score, and then they get the ball back with that final drive, and I needed 1 point. And when Josh Allen completed that first pass, I took the lead. And then, of course, I'm thinking, okay, no interceptions or fumbles now.
Right.
Because then I'll lose the lead. But back to the game specifically, though, and we've talked about this for a few years, and it was mostly when we talked about Patrick Mahomes, but now Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson have entered this realm, I believe. The Ravens decided to punt the ball back up 2 points with about 90 seconds or 96 seconds left. And if Joe Flacco or Mac Jones is on the other end of the field, I'm fine with punting it. But if you punt the ball back to Mahomes, Allen, or Lamar, and a field goal beats you, I'm sorry, you got nobody to blame but yourself. I think they had a 4th and 2. I know it's scary, and I know it goes against everything that football that we've known says to do and not do, but I think you have to go for it there. Now, if it's 4th and 15, you got to punt the ball.
Right.
But a 4th and short like that, when you're playing Mahomes, Allen, or Lamar, I think you have to go win the game. If you punt it back to them and a field goal beats you, you got no one to blame but yourself. Now, if they need a touchdown, that's a little bit different story. But in this case, 3 points beat you. There's too much time on the clock. So I know Collinsworth mentioned it. I agreed with him. You got Lamar and Derrick Henry. I think you go try to get those couple yards. You can't give the ball back to a Josh Allen.
And just a couple other things, kind of my big pictures of that game is, they missed an extra point right away, the Bills, so they chased it the rest of the game. Mm-hmm. If they would have just kicked an extra point the rest of the game, they would already had the lead. They wouldn't have been behind.
And then they may have lost because then the Ravens may have.
Yeah, because then the Ravens have to go for it. Oh, absolutely. But that's what's crazy. And it was a scoregami. First 41-40 game ever. That Tirico said that right after the game too. That's interesting. And here's the other thing is NFL offenses are so the Bills could not have ran that last possession any better. Literally kicked the field goal with 2 seconds left. Everything was perfect. And then the other thing that I saw was, I love college football. I like college football better than the NFL, but I do appreciate watching. Rocco Becht cannot make the throws that Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen can make. You just watch when they throw it, where they throw it, who they throw it to. They are throwing to spots more than people, and they're just trusting their guy that's going to be there. And then they throw it up over a linebacker in front of a safety, just the little bit of arc they need, the arm strength that it takes to hit every corner of every spot on the field. It is a thing of beauty. I just watched Josh Allen even better than Lamar Jackson in that sense. He's not – they're different quarterbacks. But Josh Allen throwing a football is a thing of beauty.
Yeah, I've been saying it for probably 4 years now. Yeah. He's the most talented quarterback to ever play the position. He doesn't have the accomplishments. He doesn't have the hardware yet, but he's the most talented when you factor in size, speed, arm strength, all that. Both of those guys they're in the Hall of Fame already. If they retire tomorrow, they're some of the best to ever do it. Now they still need the Super Bowl rings. That hopefully is coming this year. But there were some people that are concerned about both the defenses. I think both the defenses are a little bit better. I think it's just a factor of they were playing each other. And it's one of those type of games when those two teams line up, it's going to be a shootout. That kind of gets us into some of the trade talks though too. It's probably going to be an arms race in the AFC because the Chiefs have showed a little bit of weakness, and the Bills, the Ravens, and I think the Chargers are in play after watching them in week 1. Who's going to make the first big trade and who's it going to be for? Because all these teams need a little bit of help. The Ravens and the Bills, specifically on the defensive side. I don't know who's out there. Tyreek Hill's going to be on the trade block, but do any of those teams really need more offense? You could argue no. The Chiefs could use Tyreek Hill back. Yep. That might be something if they can get him for pennies on the dollar. I know I spoke to someone, we talked about this about a year and a half ago, someone with the Chiefs that said they would probably never bring him back again for actual valuable draft capital or cap space.
Right.
But if you're talking pennies on the dollar, maybe this would be a situation that they would consider it because the Chiefs have no explosion. The trade deadline is going to be fun, and I think teams are going to get aggressive here early because, again, the Chiefs look vulnerable in the AFC. So now's kind of the time to strike for some of those other contenders to finally get over the hump.
Let's talk Vikings-Bears real quick. Watched that last night. Obviously, a Bears fan. Frustrating end. It was like they had the pick six, and then it switched. The Vikings actually got better after the pick six, which is crazy to think about. But the Vikings turned it on, and J.J. McCarthy had an unbelievable fourth quarter. And Caleb Williams played pretty well. I think he's definitely gotten better. But there were a few plays that he missed on, and it was big plays, and they lost.
The Bears looked good the first couple drives, and those are scripted plays.
Yep.
After that, Caleb was downhill from there, in my opinion. He had some good runs, but passing, he missed some guys. I think they had 12 or 13 penalties, a lot of pre-snap.
Yep.
That's a little bit of a concern. And, McCarthy looked terrible the first 3 quarters. He looked like a guy that he was getting the ball batted down at the line of scrimmage. I think he had 3 maybe in the game that were batted down. I usually don't like to see that out of a quarterback in the NFL, but he turned it on in that fourth quarter. And you start looking at that draft class. Obviously, Jaden Daniels is the cream of the class so far. Bo Nix had a good season last year. We'll see how he bounces back this year. Penix looked good in week 1 here and toward the end of last season. Caleb has shown up and downs. Drake May, don't know, but you wonder how many of these quarterbacks are actually going to be good because there's probably going to have to be a bust in this class somewhere.
Right.
maybe 2. I don't know. The Tyler Dunn article came out. I don't know if you read any of that about Caleb and the Bears. A very damning article, actually. Tyler Dunn's one of the most respected reporters that write articles for the NFL, and there was a lot of reports that Caleb didn't take to coaching last year. He would walk away from coaches giving him advice in meetings. He would be asked questions and he wouldn't answer. So there's some concerning signs with Caleb. And Ben Johnson, you could tell he was frustrated on the sideline many times with Caleb. So Caleb's going to get a long runway because he's the number 1 overall pick. That's just the way it works. And as long as Caleb's doing what he's supposed to in practice, if he's being a good teammate, putting in the work, studying, he's going to get a long runway. But if he's not doing those things, like what were mentioned in the article, like he was doing last year, this thing can unravel in a hurry. And the Bears play at the Lions this coming Sunday. Both teams 0-1. We know all about the 0-2 start in the NFL.
Right.
It's very tough to make the playoffs. So this thing can unravel for the Bears. And I don't have a lot of confidence.
And Ben Johnson isn't tied to Caleb Williams. I mean, he didn't draft him. He wasn't there. I mean, obviously he chose him because he took the job, but he's overall not tied to him. If he says, I mean, obviously the ownership and GM can say, start this guy, but, you know, it's, you know, Ben Johnson say, heck with that. I'm going to do my job and then fire me if you don't want me to do it, and I'll move on. It's someone else will hire me.
Part of the problem is Ryan Poles got an extension.
I know.
So, and the thing about a number 1 overall pick like Caleb Williams is he's probably going to get most of this year, if not the entire year, which he probably should. And he's probably going to get some of next year too, even if things go bad. Now, they did give Bagent that 2-year, I think, $10 million deal. So he's kind of a fan favorite. So that's why I mentioned if Caleb's doing the right things in practice and throughout the week, then he should get plenty of starts. But if he's doing some of the stuff that was reported last year, that leash is not going to be quite as long. So we know the history of Bears quarterbacks and offense. That you know, they've never gotten it right. Feels like they've got the right coach, even though they had a lot of penalties. I don't know if that's necessarily on him. But, you know, the Vikings are typically a very well-run franchise. They figured it out at the end of the game. You know, the fourth quarter, it looks like they've got their franchise quarterback. Now it's one game. We have to see the rest of the season. But not the start that you want to see out of a Bears if you're a Bears fan. Again, the first couple drives were good. You can see Caleb move. You can see the arm talent. You see flashes of it. But then you see him missing a lot of easy throws and making some wrong decisions. So it'll probably get better. It could be a complicated offense and some hard coaching that he's not used to. But I was pretty concerned after those first couple drives. I wasn't overly impressed. So going to Detroit next week's going to be tough. That's going to be a loud environment. I'm sure Ben Johnson, well, he may have a trick play drawn up. I don't know if he trusts the Bulls to run it, you know, if they can't even get out of the
they've got him. They practice him, I promise you.
Yeah, they've got him, but they just need to be able to break the huddle and line up correctly before they even get into trick plays. So that's going to be an interesting game, a homecoming for Ben Johnson. But concerning signs out of Chicago, which is that's the norm for Chicago, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, it is.
Yeah, and then we've got for sure there's going to be 4 teams that are 0-2 after next week at minimum, with the possibility of more because we've got 4 games with teams who haven't won yet. So for sure 4 teams are going to be 0-2. The Chiefs got a big one coming up against the Eagles. Chiefs are 0-1. Eagles are 1-0. That if the Chiefs lose that game, given their division and how tough the AFC is in general, that's going to be an uphill climb. So you do wonder with the Chiefs. They're getting older. The 3 straight Super Bowls has it taken its toll. I'm not pressing the panic button. Like I said, I'm probably a 7 out of 10 on the worry scale with the Lions. My worry scale with the Chiefs, I would say probably a 2 out of 10.
Right.
But we'll see how they look against the Eagles come Sunday.
Even if they lose, if it's a heck of a football game and they both play well, obviously the worry scale jumps up, but it's not 7 yet. It's probably a 5. Just because 0-2 sucks. I mean, it's not even that they're that bad. Just 0-2 sucks and it's hard.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be as much as the Lions would be for me just because it's
Yeah.
Andy Reid and Mahomes. I mean, they're on a different level than Dan Campbell and Jared Goff. There's no doubt about that. So I would still expect them to contend for a wild card spot or make the playoffs, but the Chargers look good. I was impressed with the Chargers. You and I are big Justin Herbert fans. That was kind of his coming out party. And
Harbaugh knows what he's doing. He just wins. He's weird. He's quirky. It's his way, but he is successful.
He is, and I've thrown a bet on the Chargers to win the Super Bowl. That's how impressed I was with them, knowing how Harbaugh is year two. So that might be a little premature on my part, but I liked everything I saw of the Chargers. Like I said, if you take the Ravens and the Bills out of it, to me, the Packers in the NFC and the Chargers in the AFC were the two teams that really jumped off the TV screen to me as most impressive.
All right. Anything else in the NFL? And then let's kind of wind her down there with your NFL or WNBA take.
Nope. For NFL, obviously Washington's going to play at Green Bay Thursday night, so that'll be a good one. Yep. Washington, at least their one game, doesn't look like they have a sophomore slump, so that's good to see if you're a Washington fan. I think Green Bay's favored by 3.5. We'll see how Washington's O-line holds up. And then the only last thing I would say is the Giants are playing at Dallas this week. Russell Wilson is scheduled to start. I think if Russell struggles in the first half, you got to make a switch at halftime to Jackson Dart. Russell looks cooked. He's looked cooked for a few years now. You know me, I was a big fan of his years ago. But
is he a Hall of Famer?
No, not anymore. He was on track to be, but no, he's not getting in the Hall now. Hall of very good, but not the Hall of Fame, unfortunately. So he was on track, but not anymore. You got to go to Jackson Dart. I think he had 45 starts in college. This isn't a guy like Trey Lance or Anthony Richardson that started 12 or 13 games. He's got plenty of starts. They need a spark to their offense, and there's a lot of people arguing, well, this isn't a good time to start him. If you go look at the Giants' schedule, there is no good time to start Jackson Dart. It's a very tough schedule. He's going to have to start at some point, and eventually self-preservation for Dayball and Joe Shane's going to come in, because the only way they're coming back is if Dart looks good and looks promising. That's the only way they're coming back next year.
Right. I 100% agree with that statement. It's they either have to win football games with Russell or Dart has to look good. They don't necessarily have to win games, but he has to look good.
Yeah, I think Russell averaged like 4.8 yards an attempt. He should go play quarterback for the Hawkeyes. That's not going to work for the Giants.
Yeah, that'd be really good for the Hawks.
Yeah. Hey, it'd be enough to pick up first downs. That's not going to work in the NFL, though. So it's give Russell the half. If he's struggling, which he probably is, you got to go to Jackson Dart. So that's something I'll be paying attention to in that game.
Yeah. One last thing. Aaron Rodgers, 4 touchdowns. That just goes to show that he still has the talent. And he's old. You don't know if he'll be able to do it all 17 games, but he still can do it when he has people around him.
That was one of the best games of the week outside the Sunday night football.
It was kind of fun to watch. I watched some of it.
It was. Justin Fields looked awesome. Breece Hall finally bounced back.
Yeah.
Breece Hall was a player I thought would be on the trade block. He was having some contract disputes. He's kind of gotten worse every year since he's been a rookie. But this was a really good bounce back game for Breece Hall. So maybe a different coach gets him back on track, because we know the talent's there. For Aaron Rodgers, again, they're really deep at tight end. They have DK Metcalf. They still have no running game. Caleb struggled. He's down to third string. So, yeah, Aaron Rodgers flashed some potential. I know you picked the Steelers to get in the playoffs. It's a good start for him. We'll see if he can keep it up. He took some big hits. The Steelers' O-line and run game has been an issue for, 6 or 7 years straight now. So we'll see if he can hold up in the pocket. But I do like – we talked about this a while back. I do like their depth at tight end with Freiermuth, Johnny Smith, and Darnell Washington. So if Rodgers can utilize those tight ends, and if they can establish a running game, Pittsburgh's going to be a tough out like they are every year. They just might be a step ahead of where they've been the past few years, though.
Yeah. Yep. All right, let's go to the WNBA, where you have your Indiana Fever kind of take, big picture wise.
Yeah, this will probably be the last we talk about the WNBA till who knows when, maybe the start of next season potentially. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them. Stephanie White should probably be coach of the year. All the injuries they've had, the DeWanna Bonner nonsense that took place. I think close to 18 or 19 different players played for the Indiana Fever this year, and they made the playoffs. And I sent you a text that I think the Chicago Sky made the playoffs 4 or 5 straight years before drafting Angel Reese. They're now going to miss it for the second straight time with her. She's not a winning player. She's a me player. Just because you stand under the hoop and throw up air balls and get your own rebound and then score after your third or fourth shot doesn't make you a good team player. So they're at 10 wins on the season, second straight year missing the playoffs. Go to Paige Beckers in Dallas. She wasn't able to elevate her team to the playoffs her rookie year like Caitlin Clark was. In fact, I think they're at 9 or 10 wins, even though they played 5 extra games this year compared to Caitlin Clark's rookie year. And I think that just goes back to Paige Beckers and Angel Reese were on super teams. Caitlin Clark was on a good team, but she had to be the superstar, carry the entire sport, and kind of carry her team. Whereas Angel Reese and Paige Beckers, they were surrounded by WNBA players on the court and on the bench. So when you're not surrounded by a super team, it's a little bit tougher. And Angel Reese and Paige Beckers are finding that out. That's why Caitlin Clark is still the queen or the king, however you want to call it. She was the number 1 overall pick. Took her team to the playoffs the rookie year. This year, they added some good players, and they're still going to the playoffs. Angel Reese and Paige Beckers sitting at home. So it's just kind of interesting that Angel Reese gets all this love for being one of the best players, but her team continuously gets worse with her.
Yeah, and then, kind of her latest thing is she's wanting to fly private everywhere, correct?
Could be. I actually didn't see that. I did see she got suspended because she made some comments about her teammates not being good enough. So she had to miss a game because she got her 8th technical, which was against Indiana. She sat out that game, and then I think she got suspended for the half of the next game, and I don't even know if she showed up to the arena for it. So Caitlin's on the sideline, even though she's out for the year. She's going to the games, signing autographs. She's there cheering on her teammates. Paige Beckers is doing her best. She's a good teammate. She's just trying to figure it out in Dallas. Right. She's not like a ball hog or anything. I think she's just learning how to be a team player and life, not being surrounded by 5 stars at Connecticut. Angel Reese is just a losing basketball player at this point. Again, standing under the rim, throwing up air balls, hitting the bottom of the rim and getting your own rebound and not passing it out to other teammates is not winning basketballs. So her stats look good, but they continue to get worse every year, and any team that brings in Angel Reese, good luck to you.
All right. That sounds good. We're a little over an hour. We could go for another 45 minutes, really, if we wanted to, because we could talk big picture college. We could talk big picture Iowa football. We could talk big picture the NFL more. You could go 100 different directions, but a little over an hour is like what we like to stay at. We'll be back next week, hopefully discussing Cyclone and Hawkeye wins, along with hopefully a Bears win over Detroit. But I'm not going to hold my breath for that one.
I might have to pick.
I have Detroit going a long ways in the playoffs.
You and I both.
I'm in the Super Bowl, so I mean it's.
Yeah, we're. I talked about our misses. We both might be very wrong on Detroit, and I might be wrong on the Rams, and you might be wrong on the Chargers. So we're right. Both already off to a bad start with some of our teams.
Oh yeah, that's just par for the course with us. So, all right, see you later, Trev, and thanks for coming on tonight.
All righty, have a good night.